Hello, my name's Roger Burnett. I'd like to introduce you to a lap round the Isle of Man TT course with the camera bike on my Durex Suzuki. This lap was recorded during practice for the 1990 Isle of Man TT races. The machine is a GSXR 750 Suzuki, capable of top speed of, on this course, perhaps 185 miles an hour. Off we go. I'm letting the guy go a bit in front of me there. I don't like to wear the clutch too heavy. On a flying lap down here, we're approaching Bray Hill, which is one of the fastest parts of the course. We go down here in 5th or 6th gear, depending on how brave you feel at the time and how well the bike's handling. The roads go slightly left here, and then at the bottom you have to be careful. There's a sharp dip and flick the bike over to the right there. Then that's the famous Agostini leap where the bike jumps in the air, the front wheel does lift a little bit, and 5th and 6th gear down here. On the first lap of the race, when the fuel tank is full, the bike's very heavy, the front tyre is cold, you have to be careful braking down here to the quarter bridge. This is one of the very slowest parts of the course. It's taken in first gear, and again, when the tyres are cold, you have to take heed a little there. Accelerating out of quarter bridge now, down towards Braddon Bridge, a good place for, after the pit stop or whatever, just check that the fuel cap's on tight and nothing's leaking out of the bike. It's just a chance to take a rip-off off your visor before we go down from 4th gear to 2nd gear for this 60 miles an hour S-bend. It goes left and right, flicking past the church on the left-hand side. You have to go into the bales a little bit there and then flick left as we accelerate hard now in 3rd and 4th gear up towards the entry to Union Mills. Again, on a quick lap, this is taken absolutely as fast as you get to it. I've just rolled the bike a little bit off there, as again we've got a cold front tyre on, but then the road goes round to the right here, back to 3rd gear, 90 mile an hour approach now into this left, before the road goes right and left through Union Mills itself. We flick right and left and past the post office on the right-hand side where the Bee Gees originated from, and accelerate on our way now to one of the fastest parts on the course, up to Glenvine. This is a chance to have a little bit of a breather, although you just do have to concentrate if you're coming up against any slower riders as we are now. I'm not going to be able to get him here on this slight right kink, so I've just got to back the bike off a little bit. I'm not sure that there isn't so much gap between another rider and the banks because you're going so fast. Before the approach to Glenvine, I've gone down 2 gears. Normally I would go back 1 and take that at about 140 miles an hour and accelerate out of there down towards Crosby. You can see the camera's in an ideal position to watch the front suspension on my machine, and believe me, look how hard it's working, as even we're on a straight flat part of the road, it's still working very hard before I go back 1 gear to take this very fast left-hand church bend at Crosby. That's taken at about 150 miles an hour, and then back up into 6th gear on the approach to past the Crosby pub to the brow of this hill. There's a double white line appears in the middle of the road. You just got to take it easy over there. The bike wiggles and shakes before we drop down past the Highlander. This is the fastest part of the course. Whenever there's a speed trap, it's put it into operation here, and we've been through here 186 miles an hour. Approach to Greeba Castle now, back 2 gears, 100 miles an hour entry there before we go back down 1 more gear to 3rd gear to take the left and right through Greeba Castle. By the time you get to here on the first lap of the race, you feel quite comfortable, quite relaxed. The tyres are working good now. Through Appledene, a straight line you pick through there before we drop down 2 right-handers here, 120 miles an hour. That was the first, that's the second part there. And then run on the approach now to Greeba Bridge itself. This is down, back 2 gears, taken in 3rd gear. A much faster corner than you think, but you've got to watch the camber coming out of there. It's a little bit of an off-camber corner, and the back wheel can step out on this 140 horsepower machine. That was 1 right-hand bend. This is the 2nd right-hand bend before the approach to Ballacraine, which is 8 miles out on the circuit, and it's the first commentary point, the first real landmark that we come to, and you feel you've got here. That's a slightly quicker machine just overtaking me there. I'll give him a little bit of room. Don't want to get too close. I'm carrying quite a heavy backpack to record this lap. This is Ballacraine, taken in 2nd gear, 60-70 miles an hour. And now we accelerate up to one of my favourite parts of the course, Ballaspear and the Glen Helen section. That was a left. Now there's a double right. The first one you don't care too much about. That's the second part there. And accelerate hard down into 5th gear, 120 miles an hour, Ballig Bridge. And then round this very, very fast left. Being careful there not to go too far over the white line before we approach the Glen Helen section itself, which, as you can see, it's It's a very tree-lined area, so the camera shot has gone a little bit dark. Before we now accelerate out of there, staying in third gear, back one gear to second gear for this Glen Helen itself. This is the right-hand bend, taken at approximately 100 miles an hour. Back up to third, fourth and fifth gears. We go past a petrol station on the right-hand side now. The front wheel goes a little bit light there, difficult to control before we flick it into this very blind left-hand turn, and then a double right. There's the second part of the right there. And now all you have to remember is that there are two left-hand bends. The first one's as fast as you can get to it, flat out, and the second one isn't. This is the second part now. It goes left and right over this bridge before a tighter left-hand turn, which is a second gear left-hand bend. 80 miles an hour out of there, before Sarah's Cottage. Now this is one of the most important corners on the course, a very blind corner that goes uphill, up Craig Willie's Hill, and depending on your drive up this hill, depends on your top speed at the end of the Cronk-y-Voddy straight. So it's very important. A quick series of bends there as we accelerate now onto the Cronk-y-Voddy straight. Again, another place where you can let the bike go, where it can get up to sixth gear and really feel the sensation of the speed here on the Isle of Man TT course. The weather can be very variable on the TT course, and it can be raining up here when it's perfectly dry at the grandstand where we set off from. So something to watch. Back one gear for the end of there. I will be doing that in top gear during the race. And then we approach the 11th milestone. This is 150 miles an hour, the first part there, before we go back 2 gears into the 11th milestone itself. Being careful not to run over the white line on the right and get the 2 lefts fast, because again we've got a straight coming up after these 2 on the run down to Hanley's Bends. This is not my favourite part. There's a very, very high wall here, and should you be unlucky enough to step off the machine there's the wall on the right hand side. I just wouldn't want to hit that. Now we accelerate down here through a fast left, right, left series of bends. There's the right and then left again. This is 5th gear, 140 miles an hour. And the front wheel, if you've done that properly, because the front wheel gets airborne just there it was, on the run down to the top of Bagarrow. This is 5th gear, one of the very fastest parts, fastest corners. Just clipping the curb there on the edge, on the exit from that. And now to the bottom of Bagarrow. Back one gear, the suspension bottoms here. You can see on the left-hand side of the screen the suspension system on my bike. And when it's compressed, it means that either the bike's hit a bump or I'm braking hard. So as we're braking now into the 13th milestone, you can see the front suspension working. This is a double right, followed by a double left. Here we are at the bottom, the double left. The first part, you don't need to get too far in before you drift out and take the second part quite quick. As you can see, I've exited that much better, so I've managed to get a better speed down this straight, and that's a proper example really of what I've been talking about up Craig Willie's Hill. This is the approach to Kirk Michael, the first part here in second gear. Now, if you get a sensation of speed anywhere on the TT course, it's through here, through a house-lined street here, where we get up into 5th and 6th gear, 170 miles an hour through here. And I'm sure the residents through here don't take too well to the early morning practice sessions at 5:15 in the morning. This part's difficult because the bike's going very fast and you have a trailing throttle, and it's difficult to control through there. Up to Rencullen now, the front wheel goes a little bit light there. You saw the bump on the front wheel before we flick right and left, and then hold tight because we're going for a little jump. There we go, as we come out of Rencullen. A big sigh of relief once we've got that over it. It's quite a hectic part on the course, and then through Bishop's Court. Again, a tree-lined area, so the camera shot does go a little bit dark, and the visibility isn't quite so good, but taken as fast as you possibly can go through here. This part is one of my favourite parts. Now we come to a slight right and left here, taken using both sides of the road, going from curb to curb, and it appears that the road just opens up before Alpine Cottage. Again, 5th gear, that was 160 miles an hour. And now we're on the run to Ballacraine Bridge. Just a slight S-bend to negotiate here. There's the left part of it, and here's the right. And now Ballacraine Bridge. Famous point on the course, of course, back to first gear for this. Difficult to judge the braking after you've been going for so fast for so long. Just plop over there. Nothing too dramatic from me over there. I like to save the machine, save the chain tension, etc. Accelerating out of there, now down through to Ballacraine, 5th gear. On the approach to Ballacraine, I'm just going to get held up a little bit here. There's a very nasty jump after this very fast left-hand turn here, and I don't want to get into any problems with these guys in front. There we are. You heard the engine revs go up as the bike actually took off, and I've got a good drive out of there. So now I can accelerate flat out down through to 6th gear to Quarry Bends. Again, I'm going to be a little bit held up here. This is the new Quarry Bends. The trees have been removed and it's made it very, very fast. I'm not doing it as fast as I obviously would during a race or during a part of the track where no one was in my way. The exit speed from here is very important because we're now onto the Sulby Straight, which is again another flat out part of the course. Just managed to get that guy past me there and onto the Sulby Straight itself. The bike does up to 180 miles an hour down here, depending. Sometimes there's a headwind, sometimes there's a serious crosswind on this part of the course, and as the gateways appear down here you can get a serious crosswind that can affect the stability of the machine. On the approach now to Sulby Bridge at the end of the Sulby Straight. Difficult place to judge braking yet again. Just go up the inside of that guy there and take this in 1st gear, very slow, 50 miles an hour, and then accelerate out of there up to Ginger Hall. Good spectator spot this, a very bumpy left-hand bend, the railings on the left-hand side there. Let the bike run out up to 3rd and 4th gear now and accelerate down to Kerramore. Can't approach this as fast as you would like to. You can hear the bike clattering there, the front suspension's working overtime, and the bumps really do put you off through here. Another jump coming up here. There we are, got that over with, and now we can have a nice run down to Glentrammon. Again, another very, very fast part of the course, but an enjoyable part of the course if you know where you're going. You just let the road do the work. The white line crosses between either side of the front wheel, as you can see it doing there, and you just keep back in a straight line really. This is a double left, there's a second part, and then straight on the brakes and down a couple of gears into Glentrammon itself, which is a long right, then back another gear to 2nd gear, 60 miles an hour, and accelerate out of there. This is a nice approach now to Milntown Cottage. Again, a good place to let the bike flow, let the road do the work. The road crosses either side of the front wheel, as you can see it doing there. I'm keeping the bike straight and the road's doing the work. Up to Milntown Cottage, 5th gear. Important here not to go into that as fast as you really would want to, but to line that part at the left there, and then the right here itself. The curb does jut out on the left-hand side coming out of there. There you see it. Not a place to have too many heroics there. The front wheel just wiggles there. Bike gets in out of shape a little bit before we flick right, and now down to Schoolhouse Corner. There used to be a very nasty bump here braking before Schoolhouse Corner. It's been removed and it allows you to brake and enter this corner perhaps better than you would normally be able to, and thus making the speed down to Parliament Square a lot quicker. Parliament Square, another famous point on the course, good spectator spot. You can see the forks compressed there as I'm heavy on the brakes. Very slow corner there, 1st gear, and then accelerating out of the Parliament Square, echoing out of the houses, up May Hill. Again, another bumpy part of the course this, particularly after here, on the approach to Crookshanks, which is a left-hander at the end of here. You can see the forks working overtime. Not my favourite part of the course this at all. Before we accelerate up round a 3rd gear right-hander this, 90 miles an hour before Ramsey Hairpin, which is another slow point on the course, another good spectator spot, 1st gear. Whenever you can see the front wheel wiggling, the bike is actually much more out of shape than you would ever imagine. It doesn't actually show it so well on the camera lens, but if you look for the front wheel flicking about, it's really hard to hold on to. Up to Waterworks, 3rd gear back to 2nd, accelerate out of there. We are going quite steeply uphill now, and back to 1st gear for the 2nd part of Waterworks. This is Tower Bends that we're approaching now. 2nd gear could be 3rd, but I like to hold it tight in on the left here, not to get too close to the wall on the right. And on the approach now and the run up to the gooseneck, we've got a left, right, left. This left you can approach quicker than you would imagine, but you can easily run up to the bank on the right-hand side, and it's not really necessary. This is the important corner because it's uphill, a slow corner, 1st gear, 60 miles an hour, and now we're accelerating onto the mountain. The sun is directly in the lens of the camera now, and it's directly in my eyes as well as I'm on the bike, and it makes life a bit difficult up here. Could perhaps do with a tinted visor on, but as we left the grandstand it didn't appear to be too bad. This is an important right-hand corner again, as all the corners that lead onto a straight are on the TT course, because it determines your terminal speed at the end of the straight. And we're now going to go up to Guthrie's Memorial, which is a very difficult corner, as many are on the mountain. The mountain is quite a contrast from the Ramsey section. It's much more open, no trees, and very bleak, and very often very windy. This is Guthrie's Memorial itself. Right-hand turn there. Now a very important section, especially tonight as we've got a headwind. We've got a left turn there, which I've managed to use all the road and get a good drive out of, and then a good drive out of this right will determine my speed up the mountain mile. This is a place just to look at the gauges, check the oil temperature gauge, check the water temperature gauge, maybe take a rip off the visor. Just managed to get by that guy there. It looks like there's plenty of room. We are going in a straight line, but you never know how these slower, inexperienced people on the TT course are going to react to a slight kink in the road. They can make a sudden dramatic turn, whereas I'm trying to keep the bike straight and again letting the road do the work. As you can see, the white line flicking along past the front wheel and turning from side to side of the bike. This is into the mountain box. You've got to go round this right quickly, and there you can see the signs for the mountain box. The first part, don't go over the white line. It's a series of 4 left-hand bends. We take an apex on the second there, not the third, which is there, and the fourth part of the bend, which is there. Another important part of the course now as we approach the Black Hut. There's a very fast right kink just coming up now here. I've backed off for it a little bit, but you can get round there as fast as you reach it, and it is important to do that. The bank drops away now on the left-hand side, and when it's very windy, you get a strong crosswind here, trying to stop you going into the Black Hut. Now quickly get ready for the veranda, which is a series of 4 right-hand bends. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we are. Must remember that. It's very important as we pass Tony Rutter on the run down now to Bungalow Bridge. A good place here, very smooth. The road's very smooth. Back 1 gear. Taken in 4th gear this. 120 miles an hour, not a too spectacular corner, slight off camber coming out. Got to watch that as we run round now to the bungalow itself, which is quite a long right-hand bend. The last part of it is here, and we go back 2 gears. A little bit of short circuit work here, knee on the road. There's a good run off on the right-hand side. We cross the tram lines and head up Halewood Rise on the run up to Brandywell. Nice part on the course, this on the last lap of a race where the spectators give you a wave and bit of encouragement, which is what you need. It's so physically exhausting riding around here, it's incredible. The first part of Brandywell's a right turn, which is there, and then back down 2 gears and take this left part of it in 3rd gear at 90 miles an hour. And the next thing we've got to head for now is the 32nd milestone, 32 miles out of the 37 3/4 mile course. The 32nd milestone is 3 left-hand bends. There's the first part, which you don't apex too tightly, the second part, which you do, and then the third part can be taken flat out there. Now down to Windy Corner, called Windy Corner because of the reason that the wind does come across. That was Carl Fogarty just nipped in front of me. He's obviously heading for quite a quick lap there. Windy Corner, 2nd gear. There's a guy who sits there giving us a wave. You saw him in the camera lens there. He sits there every year for as many years as I've been riding at the Isle of Man TT. Now on the run down to the 33rd milestone. The 32nd was 3 left-hand bends. The 33rd is 2. This is a favourite corner of mine, taken in 4th gear. Just throw the bike in and the road just seems to open up, go across the white line out to the edge and cut back in for the second part. And this is a new part that's been resurfaced, Keppel Gate. This is the part of the circuit in the olden days where the rider that was last across the mountain used to have to close the gate to keep the sheep in. Now taken in 2nd gear, 70 miles an hour. To accelerate out of there, the front wheel goes a little bit light, approaching Kate's Cottage. A quick flick into that left there. You can easily run out to the bank, but again that's been resurfaced as we run down now to Cregnabar. You saw the front wheel lift then and the handlebars twist as the machine just momentarily went out of control before we're heavily on the brakes and down to 1st gear for Cregnabar. This is no heroics round here. The slower corners on the course are ones not to be scratched round because you've been used to doing such high speeds that they can easily catch you out. And accelerating onto the fastest part of the course, I believe, the run down to Brandish itself. The banks close in here and you just seem to be like you're going through a tunnel. And 185, 190 miles an hour must be your top speed there before again heavily on the brakes and down to 2nd gear for Brandish Corner. A left-hand turn, a very straightforward corner, one that's very easy to negotiate for every rider before accelerating down to Hilbury. This is taken in 4th gear. We go back 1 gear here. It's very difficult to judge. You're going downhill and then immediately you get into the corner there, we start to go uphill. That's why you have to enter that corner much faster than you really want to because so much of your speed's scrubbed off. Cronk-y-Voddy now. This is a very difficult corner to judge. It's a series of left-hand turns. As you can see, we'll keep going over the white line and back again, and then hard on the brakes for signpost corner. This is where the light comes on at the grandstand to tell everybody that you've reached here safely, and the pit crew can get ready to refuel you. First gear, second gear into bedstead. Smooth corner this, but a difficult, tricky one. The camber goes off camber coming out, and then up to third gear on the approach to the nook. Another part of the course where you have to brake heavier than you want to and scrub the speed off, then accelerate out of there, flick it up another gear, short shifting, and then a very bumpy run now down to Governor's Bridge. I've got a couple of guys in front of me here. What are they going to do? We'll just get a bit wide there, try and avoid them, let them go a bit. The slowest part of the course, this, a right, left, right, onto the start and finish. Many people believe it should be done away with, but it's a very historic part. Often we get a signal on the left-hand side there reminding us when it's our pit stops, because we're now going to finish the lap of the TT course, going back over the start and finish straight. I hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you found it as spectacular as I do riding the bike, and perhaps one day we'll see you in the TT itself. Thank you very much.